A high-powered CEO and devoted single father never expected his world to turn upside down on a quiet drive home until he stumbled upon a burning car on the roadside. Inside, a terrified bride, chained and barely conscious, stared back at him through the flames. He had two choices: walk away or change both their lives forever. What he did next, you won't believe it. It was a gloomy evening, and the orange light of the setting sun cast long shadows down the winding road, cutting through the tree-lined suburbs. Michael Hayes, a 38-year-old tech executive known for his intelligence and calm demeanor, was driving his black SUV home from daycare. His 5-year-old daughter, Emma, was sitting in the back seat, humming a tune from her ballet class, her pink tutu still faintly sparkling in the dim light. About 10 minutes from the gated community, Michael instinctively slammed on the brakes. Ahead, right by the roadside, flames roared fiercely in the trees. Thick black smoke billowed up, blocking out the fading sunlight. He slowed down, squinting through the windshield. A silver sedan, had crashed into a ditch, its front crushed like paper and engulfed in flames. "Dad, what's that?" Emma asked softly. Curious, Michael slammed the brakes suddenly, his heart pounding. "Stay in the car," he told Emma, locking the doors. "Don't move." As he stepped out, the heat hit him like a wall. The flames licked hungrily at the hood, creeping toward the windshield. The air smelled of gasoline, metal, and something darker, something terrifying. Then he heard a voice, weak and frantic. "Help me! Help me! It came from inside the car." Michael's heart raced. He ran to the driver's side, but the door was crushed shut from the impact. He bent down, peering through the shattered glass, and what he saw froze him in place. Inside the car, a woman slumped in the seat. Her long brown hair was tangled and half burned. Her face was covered in blood, eyes tightly shut. She was wearing a tattered and dirty white wedding dress, the fabric singed at the edges. But that wasn't what terrified Michael the most. She was chained, literally chained, to the steering wheel. A thick iron chain wrapped around her body, and the steering wheel was locked with a rusty padlock. Her wrists were bound, her body barely able to sit upright, as if someone had staged a twisted scene with no witnesses. "Jesus Christ," he whispered. "Help me." The voice came again, barely audible. She was still conscious, still alive, but not for long. Without thinking, Michael grabbed a fallen branch and smashed the rest of the driver's side window. The glass shattered as he reached in, trying to find the lock, trying to free her. The heat was unbearable. The flames had started spreading across the panel, and the fire was only inches away from the woman's dress. "Hey! Hey! Stay with me!" Michael shouted, coughing. "I'm going to get you out." "Okay, just hold on tight." Her eyelids fluttered. In a terrifying moment, she looked at him, and Michael would never forget the fear in her eyes. They were wide open, green, filled with horror and pain beyond words. "Please, they're going to kill me. They're coming to get me." She sobbed. "Don't let them take me back." Then she collapsed, her head falling forward, unconscious. "No," Michael yelled. "Stay awake. Come on." He reached into his back pocket, pulled out a pocket knife, and started sawing at the strap around her wrist. The metal chain was too strong. He shifted, sweat running down his face, flames licking his arm as he bent down further. Behind him, he could hear Emma shouting from the SUV. The fire flared up even stronger. With a groan, he braced himself and pulled with all his strength. Something snapped. The chain around her chest broke just enough at the weld. He reached in, grabbed her under the arm, and yanked with every ounce of desperation left. Her body slipped free just as the dashboard erupted in flames. Michael staggered back, dragging her onto the wet grass, shielding her body with his own as a deafening explosion echoed through the night. The car blew up into a ball of fire, sending out a wave of heat and debris. The sky, shocked, dazed, and covered in ashes. Michael lay there for a moment, heart pounding beside the woman's motionless body. Emma was shouting his name from the car. Sirens wailed in the distance. Maybe someone had called for help. Michael looked down at the woman in his arms. Her face was pale, lips trembling with her last breaths. He whispered, "You're okay now. I got you out. You're safe." But he knew she'd been pulled from some kind of hell. This was only the beginning. The hospital was dull with fluorescent lights, rushing nurses, and the sharp smell of disinfectant. Dim under the fluorescent lights, Michael paced outside the emergency room, arms crossed, soot still smeared on his hands and shirt. The woman had been unconscious since he pulled her from the wreckage, and no one knew who she was. No ID, no phone, no wallet, nothing but the burnt wedding dress tangled in those chains. Two officers nearby whispered to the on-duty nurse. One of them, a stern-looking detective named Graves, approached Michael. "You're the one who found her, right?" he asked. Michael nodded. "Yeah, she was chained inside a burning car. I had to rescue her. And you don't know who she is?" "No, I've never seen her before." Graves studied him carefully. No sign of a license plate on the car. It had been completely burned off. "Did she tell you someone was going to kill her?" Michael nodded again, jaw clenched tight. "She said, 'They're coming for me. Don't let them take me back.' Then she passed out." Graves glanced at his partner. "Could be human trafficking or forced marriage. We've uncovered some rings operating in this state, but no ID or reports. We found some active lines in this state, but no ID or reports. She's just a Jane Doe. We have to wait until she wakes up." Hours passed. By midnight, the ER was packed with patients from a nearby accident. The hospital manager pulled Michael aside. "Her condition is stable, but we don't have enough resources for long-term monitoring. And since you're the one who brought her in," Michael frowned. "Because you're the one who brought her, are you suggesting I take her home with me? We have no family, no ID, and she's not in custody. If you're willing to oversee her recovery for a short time, it would help us a lot." Michael hesitated. Then he glanced out the window. The woman lay motionless on the hospital bed, clutching an IV, oxygen tube in her nose. Burned lace still stuck to her collarbone. Her bruised, exhausted face somehow stirred something inside him, a sense of responsibility, maybe even something deeper. "I will take her," he said. The next morning, Michael drove her to his home in Pacific Heights. The house had sleek glass walls overlooking the ocean, modern but warm. He never planned to feel lonely. But since his wife passed away 4 years ago, things had been quieter. Only Emma's laughter could fill the empty rooms. Emma stood on the stairs, watching Michael carry the woman into the living room. Her wide eyes took in the torn dress, the bandaged wounds, and the stranger's silence in their home. "Is she a princess?" Emma asked softly. Michael stopped. "Why do you say that?" Emma pointed. "Because she's wearing a sparkling dress, but it's all burnt like she just escaped from a dragon." He smiled weakly. "Maybe she did. I'll call her the Fire Princess," Emma declared, "since she survived the flames." That night, Michael stood at the living room door, watching her sleep. She stirred, furrowing her brow. Then she started muttering, breathing heavily. "No, please don't do that anymore." Her hands twitched, clawing at the blanket. Michael stepped forward, unsure if he should wake her. Then her voice came, hoarse and scared. "I don't want to go back to that house. Don't make me go back." Morning light softly filtered through the living room curtains, casting golden patterns on the white bedspread where she lay. Her eyelids fluttered before slowly opening, her breath trembling as reality crept in, not all at once, but piece by piece. She didn't know where she was. She didn't even know who she was. The ceiling looked unfamiliar. The air smelled of lavender and sea salt. Her arm ached. Faint bruises marked her wrist. Panic began rising in her chest. Then the door creaked open and a man stepped in. He didn't look threatening. His eyes were tired but kind. He moved carefully, slowly carrying a tray with soup and tea. "Hey," he said gently, setting the tray on the table beside the bed. "You're safe now. This is my home. You were in a car accident. I found you." She tried to sit up, her body resisting, but he gently helped her. "Who am I?" she whispered, her voice hoarse. He shook his head slowly. "You still don't remember. That's okay. Don't force it." She looked at him, searching. "And you too." "Michael," he replied. "Michael Hayes. My daughter and I have been taking care of you since that night." As if summoned, the door opened wider and a curly-haired little girl and a stuffed bunny stepped in. "That's her," the girl exclaimed. "That's the princess I told you about," Michael chuckled. "Emma, do you remember what we talked about? A gentle voice? Soft footsteps. Emma stepped closer, eyes wide. "Can I tell you your name?" The woman blinked, uncertain. Emma smiled brightly, Princess of Fire. Michael raised an eyebrow. "Emma, because you walked out of the fire and didn't disappear," Emma explained with all the wisdom a 5-year-old could offer. To their surprise, the woman laughed. Just a small, broken, uncertain sound, but real. The first sign that something was shifting beyond the fear. The days passed peacefully. She didn't remember her real name, but she began recalling other things: how to make tea, the melodies of lullabies, the comfort of soft blankets. She avoided mirrors, startled by loud noises, and often woke up from nightmares she couldn't explain. But her wounds were healing slowly. Michael stayed nearby, but never hovered. He let her find her own rhythm in the house while making sure she always felt like she belonged. On the other hand, Emma had no such hesitation. She devoted herself wholeheartedly to the prince's flame. They painted together, built pillow forts. Emma confidently led her by the hand all around the garden, whispering secrets as if they had known each other forever. One afternoon, while Michael was working in his office, the three of them went to the local grocery store. It was Sophia's first outing since the accident, even though she still didn't know her own name. The store was bright and busy. Music played overhead, and shopping carts rolled back and forth continuously. She clutched the cart's handle tightly, her eyes darting around. Emma wandered a little ahead, drawn by the stuffed animals on display. For a moment, the woman was distracted while picking out cereal. Then she looked up. Emma was gone. Then she looked up. Emma was gone. "Emma," she called, her voice tense. "Emma," she called, her voice tense. She dropped everything and ran. The fluorescent lights above seemed to blur. She dropped everything and ran. The fluorescent lights above seemed to blur. The aisles stretched endlessly. Every shopper moved in slow motion. Her breath grew rapid. She called out again, louder this time, "Emma." She turned a corner and saw a man in a gray hoodie bending over a child. In that moment, something inside her shattered. She ran quickly and shouted, "Get away from her!" The man startled and looked up. He was just a store employee handing out samples. But she didn't see that. She saw hands pulling her away, voices speaking in another language. She collapsed and sobbed uncontrollably. A scream stifled behind a locked door. She collapsed and sobbed uncontrollably. Emma ran over and wrapped her arms around her. "I'm here. I'm here." Michael arrived seconds later, panic clear in his eyes. He sat down on the floor beside her, holding both of them. "Shh, it's okay," he murmured, brushing hair from her face. "She's here now. We're safe." The woman looked up at him, tears streaking her face. "I thought I lost her." Michael didn't say anything immediately, but when he looked at her, he understood. No matter who she was before, no matter what she had endured, this was more than just memory loss. She had suffered real loss, deep loss, soul-crushing loss, and now she was terrified of feeling that pain again. That night, as he tucked Emma in, she whispered, "Is she okay?" Michael kissed her forehead. "She's trying, and I'm helping more than I thought." In the hallway, he saw the woman sitting alone by the window, arms wrapped tightly around herself. He sat beside her. "Whatever you've been through, you don't have to face the rest alone." She looked at him, her voice barely audible. "Thank you for finding me, even when I didn't know I was lost." Outside, the stars began to appear, softly and steadily. Like hope, rain pattered against the tall windows of the Pacific Heights house as Michael sat in his office, reading a file the private detective had just delivered. An untouched glass of scotch sat on the edge of the desk, condensation dripping onto a leather-bound journal. He flipped a page, the weight of what he was reading pressing heavily on his chest. The dress, the burnt wedding gown Sophia had worn. It was custom-made in Eastern Europe, ordered through a luxury boutique known for discreet clientele. The buyer's name was fake, but the shipping records led to a warehouse in Nevada, currently under federal investigation for suspected human trafficking. The VIN from the wrecked car, once decoded, linked to another ghost, a car unregistered and paid for with cryptocurrency. Everything pointed to a terrifying conclusion. The woman he brought home was not just a victim of random violence. She had been targeted, lured, and sold. Michael closed the file and leaned back in his chair, jaw clenched. The detective's final note echoed in his mind. There's a ring. International. They sell brides to extremely wealthy men. What about your Jane? She's one of them. And she ran. He stared at the closed living room door. Sophia, though she still didn't remember her name, was beginning to show signs of healing. Emma had grown attached to her, and she responded warmly to Emma's affection. Now there was laughter at the dinner table and a cautious peace like family. But this truth threatened it all, so Michael made a choice. He wouldn't tell her. Not yet. Not until she remembered on her own. Not until he could protect her from whatever remembering might cost her. 3 days later, the sky turned gray with an early evening storm. Thunder rumbled over the ocean. Sophia stood by the wide kitchen window, eyes distant, hands gripping a cup of tea. Her hair was softer now, bruises fading. She wore a simple sweater and jeans. Emma's idea, saying, "Even a princess wears comfy clothes." Michael stepped up beside her. "You okay?" She didn't look at him. "The rain, it reminds me of something. Somewhere." He waited. She whispered, "There's a house, not here. Somewhere else. Big with guards. A locked room." Her hands gripped the cup tightly. "I remember yelling. No one came. Until one day, someone new showed up. He said his name was Darius." Michael froze, her voice lowering. "He wore a suit, spoke softly, told me I was special, that I would be the perfect bride. And then they dressed me. The dress, I didn't choose it. They said it would be my last gift before I became someone's possession." She turned back to face him, eyes full of fear. "I didn't know who it was. I just knew I had to run. I don't even know how I got away." Michael exhaled slowly. "Do you remember your name?" She hesitated, then closed her eyes. "Sophia. My name is Sophia." He reached out and gently touched her shoulder. "Thank you for telling me." That night, as the wind howled outside and rain lashed the house, Michael couldn't sleep. He walked through the hallways, checked the windows, doors, every lock. The investigator's files were locked in the safe, but the knowledge in his head felt heavy. Sometime after midnight, he saw it, a flicker of movement on the security feed. The backyard motion sensor lights went on. A shadow slipped across the rain-soaked garden. Michael grabbed the pistol from the lockbox by the front door and stepped outside silently. The wind soaked his clothes instantly, but he moved focused, eyes scanning the darkness. He spotted a figure near the fence, tall, broad, hooded, watching. "Hey," Michael shouted. The figure spun around, startled. For a second, their eyes met. Then the man bolted. For a second, their eyes met. Michael chased him down the path beside the lawn through the gate. Mud splashing beneath his feet. Mud splashed beneath his feet. Branches scraped at his coat. Branches scraped at his coat. He almost slipped, but kept going. The man reached the edge of the wooded slope behind the house and disappeared into the darkness. Michael stopped, breath heavy, heart pounding. He returned inside, soaking wet and angry. When he stepped in, Sophia was standing in the foyer, barefoot, holding Emma. "What happened?" she asked, voice trembling. Michael looked into her eyes. Someone was outside watching, but they're gone now. Sophia's arms tightened around Emma. "They found me." Michael stepped forward, wet hair stuck to his face. "No, Sophia, they won't take you again. Not this time." The days after the break-in were restless. Every night, Michael checked the alarm system and kept the pistol close. But Sophia changed the most. Something inside her hardened not from fear, but from clarity. Memories returned slowly, painfully, along with purpose. They sat in the kitchen one morning, sunlight casting a golden glow on the countertop where Emma colored with markers. Michael sipped his coffee, watching Sophia as she stared into the steam rising from her cup. "I remember everything," she finally said, her voice low. Michael looked up, set his cup down. "Tell me," she began. "I worked 2 jobs in Romania, barely getting by. Then I saw an online ad looking for a nanny in Switzerland, promising visas, housing, and good pay. I thought it was my way out." She paused, hands trembling as she held the cup. "I thought it was my way out." She stopped again. "At first, They took me to Belgium, saying it was just a stop before finalizing paperwork. But the house I stayed in wasn't a hotel, it was a compound. No windows, no phones, and the doors were locked from the outside. Michael clenched his jaw. They took my passport and trained us like cattle. How to walk, how to smile, how to obey. Then they auctioned us off to rich men all over Europe. Most were old, some younger, but all cruel. I was bought by a man named Victor Langdon. He was titled a kind of baron, a man obsessed with control and strict rules. Michael was nearly speechless, while Darius paced nervously around the room. He was the one who sold me to Victor, saying I should be grateful because Victor helped me live longer than most. When Victor tried to force a marriage, I stabbed him with a broken piece of glass and ran. I don't know how I got to the U.S., but someone must have been waiting. I woke up in that car, chained and left to burn. Michael's chest tightened. You should be in a safe, protected home. This is too big, too dangerous. I know, she said softly, but I can't leave yet. Not yet. You and Emma, I love Emma, and you care about her more than you think you can. But I won't live free knowing there are still dozens of girls trapped in that hell. I have names. I remember many places. If I testify, we can take them all down. Michael leaned forward. Then we do it together. But we do it smart, no more surprises. He had contacted the FBI through private channels, giving them some intel they had, and they started building a case. It could take weeks, even months, to coordinate a raid with international cooperation. Meanwhile, Sophia stayed hidden. But Darius was always one step ahead. She should have driven quietly to Emma's ballet class. Michael was driving. Sophia sat in the passenger seat. Emma softly singing in the back with her stuffed bunny. The sky was a little clearer. Everything was almost normal until the SUV slammed into them from the side. Glass shattered. The car spun out. Metal screeched. Glass shattered. The car veered off the road and plunged into a ditch. Michael's ears rang. Blood ran down his temple. He looked over. Sophia was moving, dizzy but conscious. In the back, Emma screamed. Then the door flew open. Two men wearing black masks yanked the door handle hard, one pointing a gun at Michael. He reached for the glove box, but the gunman slammed the stock of his gun hard into his ribs. Michael fell to the side, gasping for breath. "Grab the girl," one of them shouted. "No." Sophia lunged into the back seat, wrapping her arms around Emma. Michael, with what little strength he had left, kicked hard, slamming the door shut on the second attacker's arm. The man howled. Sophia took the chance to push Emma through the opposite door and yelled, "Run, baby, run to the trees." Emma stumbled out and ran fast toward the woods. One of the attackers chased after her, but Sophia kept running, her feet pounding the grass, rage overpowering fear. She tackled the man to the ground, clawed at his mask, and slammed her elbows into his face until he passed out. Behind her, tires screeched. Michael had climbed into the driver's seat and drove the SUV forward, sending the man flying. Panting, Sophia held Emma close to her chest. Back home, they locked every door, called the FBI, and huddled together on the floor. Back home, they locked every door, called the FBI, and huddled together on the floor. Michael clutched his side, wincing with every breath. Sophia quietly cleaned his wounds, her hands steady but her eyes wet. "You can't keep running," she said, pressing gauze against his ribs. Michael nodded. "Then let's end this." Sophia looked into his eyes, her voice growing warmer. "I'm going to face him. I'm going to stop him. No more running. No more waiting." He touched her cheek. "We do it together." She took his hand. He knew, but if he failed, promise me you'll protect her. You won't fail. And none of them took their eyes off us. This estate, hidden deep in the hills outside Monterey, was luxurious, vast, surrounded by high walls and armed guards. From the outside, it looked like any wealthy businessman's retreat, but inside it was a gilded prison. Sophia stood before the heavy oak door, once again wearing the white dress Darius had forced her into, her face calm but her heart pounding. This time, she was no longer a victim. She had a wire under her dress, a small transmitter sewn into the fabric near her collarbone. Michael and the FBI were listening in. She had volunteered for this, for the mission. When the door opened, Darius was already waiting. His smile was cold and practiced, just like always. His suit was perfectly pressed, as if no time had passed. "All right," he said. "The runaway bride returns. I have to say, I expected scars, not steel." Sophia said nothing. She let him take her hand, leading her into the main hall, where glittering chandeliers hung above and shiny marble sparkled beneath her feet. But behind that grandeur, she saw its signs of captivity. The door had bars. Guards stood outside the bedroom. Girls sat silently, their eyes hollow, peeking out from the dark hallway. "Let's go," Darius said, leading her into a private sitting room. "We have a lot to discuss. Your disappearance cost me dearly." "I need time to think," she answered softly. "But now I understand. I know who I am. I'm ready to belong to you." Darius squinted as if weighing her sincerity. "Birds are easy. Trust Sophia. Make the sacrifice." She gave a weak smile. "Then try me." That was the signal. Outside, hidden behind trucks and trees, agents moved. Michael, dressed in black tactical gear, gave the orders. Now the whole team rushed through the gate, taking out the guards in front quickly and quietly. Inside, chaos erupted. Sophia grabbed a fire extinguisher and smashed the lock on the nearest bedroom door. "Go," she whispered to the frightened girls inside. "Help's here." "Run." She ran to the next room, then the next, shouting loudly to drown out the alarm. "You're free." Gunfire rang out. Downstairs, Michael dashed down the hall, ducking behind pillars as Darius's thugs fired. One thug charged him with a knife. Michael slammed him into the wall, disarmed him, and used the weapon to cut the chains binding two girls in the basement. Outside, he urged them on. Follow the lights. More gunshots. Screams. Upstairs in the hallway, Darius grabbed Sophia's wrist and pulled her back. "You think I wasn't ready for betrayal," he hissed. She was nothing but property. She twisted free and punched him in the face. He staggered back, furious. "You're making a mistake, sweetheart." She stiffened. He said it was for all the girls he'd locked up. He pulled a gun from his coat, pointing it straight at her chest. "Wrong move, sweetheart." She froze, holding her breath. At the end of the hallway, Michael turned the corner just as Darius pulled the trigger. He charged forward without hesitation. The gunshot thundered. Michael hit the ground hard, the bullet piercing his side. "No!" Sophia screamed, catching him as he fell into her arms. Darius raised the gun again, but it was too late. FBI agents stormed the hallway, wrestling him down, struggling to take the weapon as he shouted curses. His voice was drowned out by footsteps and orders. Sophia held Michael's head, tears streaming down her face, his blood staining the lace of her dress red. "Stay with me," she whispered desperately. "Don't close your eyes. Don't you dare die on me." He coughed, grimacing, trying to smile. "That dress looks even better than last time." She sobbed, pressing her forehead against his. "Why?" she asked. "Why would you take a bullet for me?" Michael's voice was hoarse, growing weaker. "Because you're the first thing I dreamed of in a long time." "Please," she begged. "Because you're the first thing I dreamed of in a long time." "Please," she begged. "You can't die. You're also the first thing I dared to dream of." His eyes closed. "Michael!" she shouted, but in the distance, sirens wailed. "Michael!" she yelled, but in the distance, sirens blared. The paramedics arrived, gently pulling her away. Oxygen masks, bandages, shouting. He was still breathing, weak, but alive, as Darius was dragged away in handcuffs, bloodied and defeated. Sophia stood in the hallway of what used to be her prison, trembling. Around her, the girls cried, held each other tight, stepping into the light for the first time. And for Sophia, the nightmare was finally beginning to end, but her heart was still chained to a fragile, beautiful heart. The question, would Michael survive? The question, would Michael survive? The sterile smell of antiseptic filled Michael's nose before he opened his eyes. His body ached in ways he couldn't name. Every breath felt like walking through fire. The gentle beeping sound surrounded him. After a long sleep, when he finally focused, they settled on her, Sophia. She sat beside his hospital bed, her hand gripping his. Her eyes were red-rimmed, her face pale. But she smiled as soon as she saw him move. "You're awake," she whispered, her voice choked with emotion. Michael blinked, trying to speak. I stayed. Of course you did. She leaned forward, brushing a strand of hair from his forehead. You saved me. You saved all of us. He forced a smile. Did we catch him? She nodded, tears running down her cheeks. Darius is in custody. So are the others. FBI crossed the border. Dozens of girls have been rescued. The whole ring is gone. He closed his eyes, relief washing over him like a wave. Thank God. They say none of this would have happened without you or your testimony. Michael slowly turned his head to look at her. And you. I'm under protection now, she said. New identity. Full immunity. Travel documents. I can start over anywhere. He tried to sit up, wincing. You can stay with me. With us. Sophia reached into her pocket, her smile playful through the tears. I hoped you'd say that, she whispered. From beneath a stack of hospital papers, she pulled out a thin ring made entirely of twisted strips of paper. It's white and fragile. And at first, Michael didn't understand. Then she slipped it onto his finger. A paper chain, he asked. Confused, her eyes sparkled. It's a proposal. He blinked. You're proposing to me? Yes. She smiled brighter. You once broke my chains. Now I'm willingly giving you this chain. It's how I say I choose you. Not because I need you to save me, but because I want to walk through life with you. Michael smiled through the pain, then winced. That's not fair. You can't just drop to one knee and get through this right now. You'll have your chance, she whispered, brushing her lips across his forehead. But for now, just say yes. Okay, he said softly, his eyes full of something deeper than gratitude. Yes, 1,000 times yes. 2 weeks later, Michael came home to laughter echoing through the house. He stood at the doorway, leaning on his cane, the wound still healing, but his heart had never felt stronger. In the living room, Emma was curled up in Sophia's lap, the two of them wrapped in a blanket, reading fairy tales. When she saw him, Emma jumped up and ran to him with open arms. Daddy, she shouted, you're back. He picked her up, wincing but laughing too. Hey, firecracker. Sophia stood there, watching them with tears in her eyes. Emma turned to her. Mommy, come here. It was the first time she said that. Sophia froze, bringing her hand to her heart. Then she moved toward them, and Michael pulled her into his arms. The house had never felt like this before, safe, whole, and real. That evening, as the sun set pink and gold over the ocean beyond the porch, Sophia stood beside Michael, holding his hand. The breeze was gentle, the sea calm, and this time, there was no darkness hiding behind their eyes. Michael looked at her and said, So, any plans for the honeymoon? She beamed. Anywhere, as long as it's not in the trunk chained to the steering wheel. He laughed and shook his head. You're amazing. I'm alive, she replied. And I'm loved. They fell silent, gazing at the horizon. Two souls who had endured pain deeper than words, now standing in the light of something unbreakable love, freedom, and a second chance. The sky above the California coast glowed with the soft pink hues of sunset, casting warm shades of coral and lavender over the ocean. A gentle breeze rustled the swaying palm fronds, carrying the scent of salt water and wildflowers. White chairs lined the beach, facing a simple arch decorated with driftwood and pale roses. The vast ocean stretched out. Guests whispered in awe as the soft sound of an acoustic guitar filled the air, but none held their breath like Michael. He stood at the altar, dressed in a crisp white linen shirt and navy pants, barefoot on the sand. The wind played with his hair, and in his hand was a ring, the symbol of something no fire could burn away. Emma, radiant with pride, walked ahead of the bride, scattering rose petals from a small woven basket. She wore a flower crown, and her laughter was music that touched every heart there. She looked back once to make sure everyone was watching, then flashed a big grin at Michael before taking the final steps to his side. And the crowd rose to their feet. Sophia appeared at the start of the short sandy path, glowing in the golden light. She wore a simple, elegant white dress, no embellishments, no sequins, no jewelry, just soft fabric fluttering in the breeze like freedom itself. Her hair was pulled back with a pearl clip, barefoot, her eyes locked on Michael. Each step she took seemed to wipe away every shadow of her past. There was no fear on her face, No chains binding her spirit, only peace, only love. As she reached him, Michael reached out and took both her hands. "You're real," he whispered. "I've always been." She whispered back, "I've always been." She smiled. "But now I get to live like this." The officiant, a college friend of Michael's, began the brief ceremony. His voice was calm, sincere, full of respect for the journey that had brought these two souls here. He spoke of survival, healing, and love that chooses to stay when running away would be easier. Michael turned to Sophia. "I promise I'll never be your savior," he said. "Just your companion, your equal, your forever safe place." Sophia's eyes sparkled with tears. "I promise I'll never run from love again," she said. "And I promise to choose you every day with all the freedom I've fought for." When the officiant declared them husband and wife, the guests cheered and stood up as Michael gently cupped Sophia's face and kissed her a kiss full of gratitude, hope, and unspoken vows written in fire and meant to last. That night, under the starry sky, the ceremony continued in quiet intimacy. There was laughter, soft music, and dancing under strings of lights swaying in the sea breeze. Emma led the first dance, pulling both Michael and Sophia into a spinning circle on the sand, giggling as her parents stumbled along to her rhythm. Later, when the beach had quieted and most guests had left, the three of them stood side by side, holding paper lanterns. Michael lit Emma's lantern first. "Make a wish," he whispered. Emma closed her eyes tight, whispered something to the wind, then released the lantern. It floated up, glowing like a tiny moon. Next, Sophia lit her lantern. She held it for a long moment before letting it go. Then she turned to Michael and took his hand. "This is the life I've chosen," she said softly, looking at him. Then at Emma, who was holding on to her tightly. "I'm no longer chained. I'm no longer someone's possession or a girl trapped in a nightmare. I choose this. I choose love. I choose to live. And I choose this family." Michael didn't answer with words. He simply wrapped his arms around both of them, holding them close as the lanterns floated higher, blending into a sky now filled with glowing lights, symbols of prayers, hope, and ultimately, the soul. The waves whispered onto the shore. The stars shone brightly, and a new chapter began. As the last lantern disappeared into the night sky, a gentle peace settled over the beach. It was really a beginning. An ending is really a beginning. What can we take away from this story sometimes? Healing doesn't come through grand gestures, but through the quiet persistence of those who choose to stay. This journey reminds us that love can be rebuilt not from perfection, but from showing up. Even when it's hard, in a world full of rushed goodbyes and broken trust, the courage to connect again, to listen, to forgive, to hope can change everything. If this story touched your heart, let's send our love and support to the main characters, who fought their way through pain and silence toward something more whole. What do you think they should do next to protect what they've begun to rebuild? Share your thoughts with us. We'd love to hear from you. And if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe to Touching Tales Hub for more heartwarming stories, just like this one. Stories that remind us we're not alone, that kindness, resilience, and connection still matter. Because sometimes, the next story might just be the one that speaks directly to your soul.